Welcome to Find Out Friday. This is Miss Lauren. I'm here with Mr. Matt today, and we're going to be answering some of the questions that you guys had this week about food webs and about nature in general. In the meantime, I have to take a little bit of a walk to get back inside so that I can be on both cameras at once. We had to do a little bit of a setup kind of distancing going on, but we will be getting started in about 30 seconds for that. But while we are waiting, we have some hummingbird feeder action that we're currently recording. All right, I think that we are good. We should be able to catch this both on our live feed as well as on our YouTube post. So I'm going to go ahead and we can start talking about some of the questions that we got this week. So the first question that we got this week was, does artificially feeding the birds like this greatly change the food web in the area? And just so you guys know, from what we have seen and heard, most of the food this time of year that the birds are going to be eating going to be a lot of insects, and I think it's something like only 20% of the food that these birds eat during this time of year is actually coming from the feeders. And even during the winter months, they're going to be spending a lot more of their time foraging for native seeds in the area. So while it does attract some birds, it doesn't necessarily change their populations much. It just kind of changes their behavior a little bit. Our next question comes from actually our YouTube video. It was, what were those holes in the ground you were poking at? And Mr. Matt, you were doing the poking of those holes in the ground. Do you want to tell us a little bit about them?
I can. Those are one of my favorite things to see out here in as far as the insect world in the Ozarks. Those little holes we had out there are antlion pits. So these little insects we have called antlions that make little burrows in the sand or other loose soil. They just sit there in that little hole they make, and they wait for some unsuspecting insect like an ant to come too close. And the ant, when it falls into that hole, the antlion grabs it as it falls into the hole, and they chomps them down. They are very big predators. You don't see them very often. They stay down hidden in their holes, but they are awesome little insects, those antlions.
That's really intense. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but these guys, we could call them secondary and maybe even tertiary level consumers. Going back to what we were talking about earlier this week on our ONSC online programming. Would that be correct, Mr. Matt?
Yes, even though they are insects, insects can still be considered like top level or tertiary consumers. There are a lot of insects that are predatory. So these antlions, even though they're just insects, are not big predators like a bear or anything. They could still be considered like secondary or tertiary consumers.
Yeah, so even these little tiny things can be really high up on the food chain, which I think is fascinating. The next question that we got was, how do storms affect bird migration? This is actually a really interesting topic. I know we've been getting a lot of thunderstorms lately. We even had some hail out here at the Science Center the other night. And, well, the short answer is it definitely does affect it. But a lot of times birds will migrate in large masses north, and any strong storms can kind of knock them down. And think about it, you wouldn't want to try to drive into town if there was a really heavy rain. You'd stay home and you'd stay in your house. And these birds, you know, they don't exactly have houses like we do, but what they'll do is they'll hang out in the trees or, you know, take cover wherever they can. And sometimes that will happen in large numbers. So right before or right after a really big storm this time of year can be a really great time to see a lot of birds that you otherwise wouldn't normally get to see. They're going to be eating and trying to regain their energy before they take back off towards where they're going to be spending their summer times. And then, this last question. This one actually ties in really well with next week. It is, if I see something in my yard but don't know what it is, how can I find out? Now, Mr. Matt, you were writing a lot for next week